The first time I saw the capital of Aurelia Prime, I was standing on the back of a dusty cargo truck, holding a forged identity chip and pretending I belonged there. From the distance, the royal city shimmered like something pulled from a dream. Towers of silver glass rose into the clouds, glowing softly under the twin suns. Hover rails crisscrossed the sky like veins of light, carrying trains silently between floating platforms. To the thousands of workers lined up at the southern gate, though, it wasn't a dream. It was a prison made of opportunity. Move forward, a guard barked through a metallic voice amplifier. The line shuffled ahead. Around me stood miners, mechanics, refugees, and laborers from a dozen different planets. Everyone wanted a job inside the capital. The Queen's government paid more than any corporation, but it also watched everything. I kept my head low. After 12 years of running through the outer systems, this was the last place I ever expected to return. Yet here I was, back where everything began. My name is Cale Arden. 12 years ago, I lived in the lower districts of Aurelia Prime with my mother. We were poor, but we survived by repairing starship engines for smugglers and traders who didn't ask questions. Back then, the royal palace was just a distant shape in the sky, a place where gods lived. But fate has a strange sense of humor. One night, everything changed. A shuttle crash-landed near our district during a violent electrical storm. It tore through a warehouse and burst into flames. People ran away. I ran toward it. I don't know why. Maybe because I was 16 and stupid. Maybe because I believed heroes were real. Inside the burning shuttle, I found someone trapped beneath a twisted metal frame. A girl. Her clothes were elegant even through the smoke and fire, stitched with symbols I didn't recognize then. She looked at me through terrified eyes. Please help me. The metal beam was too heavy. I grabbed a plasma cutter from my tool belt and sliced through the support struts, holding the wreckage together. The beam collapsed sideways. In the chaos, a jagged piece of metal tore across my shoulder, leaving a deep, burning scar. But I didn't stop. I pulled the girl free and dragged her out of the burning wreckage just seconds before the shuttle exploded behind us. When the smoke cleared, royal soldiers arrived. Armored. Terrifying. They surrounded us instantly. I thought they were going to arrest me. Instead, they took the girl away without a word. One of them turned back briefly and said something strange. You never saw her. The next day, soldiers came again. But this time they weren't here to thank me. They were here to erase me. My mother hid me in a smuggler's cargo ship that night. Leave, she whispered, pressing a small bag of credits into my hand. Why? I asked. Her eyes were wet with fear. Because you saved someone you weren't supposed to see. I didn't understand then, but I obeyed. By morning, I was gone from Aurelia Prime, and for 12 years I stayed gone. Until 3 weeks ago. That was when the message arrived. Encrypted. Anonymous. Just 4 words. Come back. She remembers. Attached to it was an image. A royal seal. And, beneath it, the face of the Queen. Queen Lysara Valen. Ruler of Aurelia Prime. The most powerful woman in the Orion Belt. And the girl I once pulled from a burning shuttle. The guard at the gate scanned my identity chip. Cale Arden. Engineering Labor Division. He waved me through. Just like that, I stepped inside the city I had been forced to abandon. The capital hadn't changed. But I had. The streets buzzed with aerial taxis and drones. Holographic advertisements filled the air. Patrol units floated above the crowds like silent predators. I kept my hood low and walked toward the worker transport station. If the Royal Intelligence Network recognized my real identity, I wouldn't last an hour. Yet something strange happened over the next few days. No one stopped me. No one questioned me. It was almost as if they expected me. A week later, everything changed. I was repairing a damaged cooling unit in one of the palace maintenance corridors when the alarm sirens erupted. Red lights flashed across the walls. Security breach. A voice echoed through the hall. Guards sprinted past me toward the inner palace. I should have left. Workers weren't allowed near the royal sectors during emergencies. But curiosity pulled me forward. I followed the guards through a half-open maintenance door. That was my first mistake. Inside the palace, everything felt different. Quiet. Powerful. The floors were polished obsidian. Massive windows overlooked floating gardens suspended above the clouds. I had never been this close to the royal chambers before. Voices echoed ahead. Angry ones. Your Majesty, please return to the secure wing, a guard insisted. I will not hide in my own palace, a woman replied calmly. Her voice stopped me cold. Even after 12 years. I recognized it. Queen Lysara. I stepped around the corner. She stood in the center of the hall surrounded by armored guards. Her silver crown gleamed under the palace lights, and her dark hair fell over her shoulders like a curtain of shadow. She looked older now, stronger. But it was her, the girl from the burning shuttle. Then the attacker struck. The explosion shattered the hallway doors. 3 armored mercenaries burst through the smoke, firing pulse rifles. Guards fell instantly. Chaos erupted. I didn't think. I moved. A fallen guard's plasma pistol lay on the ground beside me. I grabbed it and fired. One mercenary dropped. The others turned toward me. Another one of them shouted. They opened fire. I dove behind a pillar as plasma bolts tore into the marble walls. Get the queen out, someone yelled. But the exit routes were already blocked. The mercenaries had planned this carefully. The queen was trapped. And somehow, so was I. I ran forward, straight into the fight. The second mercenary swung his rifle toward me. Too slow. I slammed the pistol into his helmet and fired point blank. The third one lunged, with an energy blade. We crashed into the floor together. The blade sliced across my shoulder. Pain exploded through my body. But it wasn't the first time that shoulder had been cut open. I drove the pistol under his armor and pulled the trigger. Silence returned to the hallway. For a moment, no one moved. Then I felt it. Someone watching me. I turned slowly. Queen Lysara stood only a few steps away. Her guards surrounded her again, but she wasn't looking at them. She was staring at me, more specifically, at my shoulder. The torn fabric of my jacket had exposed the old scar beneath it, a long jagged mark stretching across my collarbone. The same scar I earned pulling her from that burning shuttle. Her eyes widened. For a moment, the entire palace seemed to hold its breath. Then she whispered softly, "So it's you." Her voice trembled slightly. After all these years. The guards immediately raised their weapons at me. "Your Majesty, step back." But she lifted her hand. "Lower your guns." They hesitated. Now. Reluctantly, the guards obeyed. The queen walked toward me slowly, studying my face. "You disappeared," she said. "I was forced to," I replied carefully. Her eyes flickered with something that looked like guilt. "I know." The hallway fell silent again. Finally, she spoke the words that changed everything. "I've been searching for you for 12 years. That night, I was escorted to a private chamber inside the palace. Not a prison cell, a guest suite, which somehow felt even more dangerous. Hours later, the door opened. Queen Lysara stepped inside alone. No guards. No advisors. Just her. "You should hate me," she said quietly. "Your soldiers chased me off the planet," I replied. Her expression tightened. "They disobeyed my orders." That surprised me. What? I told them to protect you, she continued. Instead, they tried to erase every witness to the crash, including you. She looked down briefly. I didn't find out until it was too late. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she looked up again. You saved my life, Kale. I was just a kid. You were a hero. I shook my head. Heroes don't run away. She stepped closer. Sometimes they're forced to. Over the next few days, the truth unfolded. The shuttle crash 12 years ago hadn't been an accident. It had been an assassination attempt. Someone within the royal council had tried to kill the young princess before she could inherit the throne. That same conspiracy was still alive. The mercenaries who attacked the palace were proof. And now that I had reappeared, the conspirators knew it. You're a witness, Lasara explained. And someone who already saved my life once. I crossed my arms. So, what are you asking? Her answer came without hesitation. Stay. I raised an eyebrow. As what? She smiled faintly. My personal protector. The palace council hated the idea. A former street mechanic guarding the queen? Unthinkable. But Lasara didn't care. Within a week, I was officially appointed commander of the Royal Guard. Ironically, the same guards who once hunted me now answered to me. And the conspiracy we hunted slowly began to reveal itself. Hidden alliances, secret messages, corrupt ministers. The deeper we dug, the more dangerous it became. Until finally, we uncovered the mastermind. Lord Valen, the Queen's own chief advisor. The man standing beside her throne for the past decade. The final confrontation happened in the throne room. Valen didn't even try to deny it. You were supposed to die 12 years ago, he said coldly. He activated a hidden weapon. Elite soldiers burst through the chamber doors. But this time, we were ready. The royal guard surrounded him instantly. And for the first time in 12 years, the conspiracy collapsed. Weeks later, the palace finally felt peaceful again. One evening, I stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights. Lasara joined me quietly. It's strange, she said. What is? 12 years ago, you saved a frightened girl. She smiled softly. And now you've saved a queen. I looked at the glowing skyline. Looks like trouble follows you everywhere. She laughed gently. Then her eyes drifted to the scar on my shoulder again. You know, she said, that scar changed both our lives.
How?
Because it helped me find you again.
She paused.
And this time, I'm not letting you disappear. Under the twin suns of Aurelia Prime, the past had finally caught up with us. But for the first time, it felt like the beginning of something new. Under the twin moons of Aurelia Prime, the royal palace finally felt calm again. For weeks after Lord Valen's arrest, the capital had been in chaos. Investigations spread across the empire, exposing secret alliances and corrupt officials who had hidden behind their power for years. Entire sections of the royal council were replaced. And through it all, one thing remained constant. Queen Lasara kept me close. Not just as commander of the royal guard, but as someone she trusted more than anyone else in the palace. Still, I never forgot who I was. A mechanic from the lower districts. A boy who once fixed engines in dark alleyways. And every time I walked through the golden halls of the palace, part of me felt like I didn't belong there. One night, I stood alone on the balcony outside the Queen's private chambers. The city stretched endlessly below, glowing with millions of lights. Hover traffic streamed between skyscrapers like rivers of stars. I rested my arms on the railing, staring into the distance. Thinking about leaving again? Her voice came from behind me. I didn't turn around immediately. Queen Lasara stepped beside me, dressed not in her royal robes, but in a simple, dark gown. Without the crown, she looked less like an untouchable ruler and more like the girl I had once dragged from a burning shuttle. "I was wondering when you'd ask," I said. She sighed softly. "I know that look." "What look?" "The one you had 12 years ago when you left the planet." I finally looked at her. "You remember that?" "I remember everything," she replied. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The wind carried the distant hum of the city upward toward the palace. Then she said something unexpected. "You're free to go, Kale." That caught me off guard. "What?" "You've done more than anyone could ask," she continued. "You helped expose the conspiracy that nearly destroyed the throne. The Empire is safer now because of you." She looked out across the city. "You don't owe me anything." Her voice was calm, but I could hear something beneath it. Something she was trying to hide. I turned back toward the skyline. "When I got that message 3 weeks ago," I said slowly, "I almost didn't come." She glanced at me. "But you did." "Yeah." "Why?" I shrugged slightly. "At first, curiosity. And now." I thought about it carefully. The palace, the conspiracies, the danger, and the girl I once saved, who had grown into a queen carrying the weight of an entire empire. Finally, I answered honestly. "Now I'm not sure." She studied me quietly. Then she stepped closer. "You know," she said, "when you saved me 12 years ago, I never even learned your name." I smirked faintly. "Your soldiers didn't exactly give me time to introduce myself." She winced. "That mistake cost me 12 years. I looked at the scar on my shoulder. "It cost me a few things too." Her eyes softened. "I know." The next morning, the royal court gathered for the first time since the conspiracy ended. Ministers, generals, and advisors filled the massive throne chamber. Golden banners hung from towering pillars. The entire empire seemed to be holding its breath. I stood beside the throne in my black commander's uniform, trying not to look uncomfortable under the hundreds of watching eyes. Queen Lysara stepped forward to address the court. "Today," she began, "we close one of the darkest chapters in Aurelia Prime's history." Her voice echoed through the chamber. "For 12 years, enemies within our own government plotted against this throne." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "But their conspiracy has been exposed," she continued. "Their leader has been imprisoned, and the empire will move forward stronger than before." Applause spread through the hall. Then she raised her hand. "And we owe this victory to one man." My stomach dropped slightly. "Oh no." Her eyes turned toward me. "Commander Cale Arden." Every head in the chamber turned. I suddenly felt like I would have preferred another firefight. "Step forward," she said. I obeyed reluctantly, walking toward the center of the throne chamber. The ministers whispered among themselves, some curious, some clearly annoyed. Lysara continued speaking. 12 years ago, when I was still the crown princess, my shuttle was sabotaged during a journey through the lower districts of this city. Gasps spread through the room. "Most of you never knew the truth," she said, "because the attack was hidden by those responsible."
She paused.
"But one person knows exactly what happened." She looked directly at me. "This man." The whispers grew louder. "He pulled me from the burning wreckage," she said clearly. "He saved my life." The entire court went silent. And 12 years later, she added, "He saved it again." I shifted uncomfortably under the attention. "This isn't necessary," I muttered quietly. She ignored me. "For years," Lysara continued, "I searched for the boy who rescued me. I never found him until fate brought him back to the palace." Her gaze dropped briefly to the scar on my shoulder. "And when I saw that scar, I knew." She turned back to the court. "Today, the Empire finally knows the truth. The room was completely silent now. Then she said something I absolutely wasn't prepared for. Cale Arden is not only the savior of the Queen. She paused. He is the protector of Aurelia Prime. A royal officer stepped forward holding a velvet case. Lasara opened it slowly. Inside rested a silver insignia shaped like a star surrounded by wings. The highest honor in the Empire. Gasps filled the chamber again. She held the medal up for everyone to see. For bravery beyond measure, for loyalty beyond expectation, and for saving the life of your queen. She stepped closer. I award you the Star of Aurelia.
I didn't know what to say.
But before I could protest, she pinned the medal onto my uniform. The court erupted into applause. Hours later, the ceremony finally ended. I escaped to the palace gardens, needing fresh air after being stared at by half the empire. The floating gardens drifted gently above the clouds, filled with glowing plants from distant worlds. I leaned against a stone railing. You handled that well.
Her voice again.
Of course. Queen Lasara joined me among the silverleaf trees. You didn't warn me, I said. She smiled slightly. You would have refused. Correct. She folded her arms. Yet you're still here. I sighed. Barely. For a moment, we just listened to the quiet hum of the floating garden engines. Then she asked the question that had been waiting between us. So, are you leaving? I thought about it carefully. 12 years ago, I had run from this planet with nothing but fear and anger. Now I stood in the royal palace as one of the most trusted people in the empire. Life had a strange sense of humor. Finally, I answered. I spent 12 years running, I said. And I looked at her. I'm tired of running. Her eyes brightened slightly. So you'll stay? I smiled faintly. Someone has to keep you out of burning shuttles. She laughed softly. Then she stepped a little closer. Good. I raised an eyebrow. That's it. That's it. But the way she looked at me suggested there might be more coming someday. Months passed. The empire stabilized. Corrupt officials were replaced. Trade routes reopened. And peace slowly returned to Aurelia Prime. Through it all, I remained at the Queen's side. Commander of the Royal Guard. Protector of the throne. But sometimes late at night on the palace balcony, we still talked like we had that first evening. Not like Queen and Guard, but like two people whose lives had been connected by fate. One night, as the twin moons rose over the glowing city, Lasara glanced again at the scar on my shoulder. You know, she said softly, that scar changed everything. I chuckled.
Yeah.
It definitely ruined one of my favorite jackets. She smiled. But it also brought you back to me. I leaned on the railing beside her. And this time, she added quietly, I won't let you disappear again. I looked out over the endless lights of Aurelia Prime. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a runaway mechanic anymore. I felt like I had finally found where I belonged. And strangely enough, it all started with a scar the Queen could never forget.